about gay marriage? You think people should be allowed to marry who they want? Does that matter?
Kinky Freeman had a great, you know who Kinky Freeman is? Kinky Freeman is a great country singer. I love Kinky Freeman and followed him for years. Ran for governor of Texas and got third in the governor's race. He's a Jewish guy, makes fun of all religions. He says, you know, what do I care about whether or not gays, but gays ought to be just as miserable as the rest of us that are married, right? They should be just as miserable as the rest of us. Like, that's not my issue. I'm more concerned about my kids and grandkids in my life. If a couple of gays want to go off and have a civil union, you get into the idea of the marriage maybe, but a civil union, that's their business. Again, don't get in my face. Don't mess with me. But you know, I want to be left to live my private life ourselves. And so you can get into that whole issue. And by the way, Neil Bork does an interesting evaluation of that in his book. Bork talks about the fact that you know, you're going to, the whole issue of, well, you choose this lifestyle of being of a different sexual organization. You choose this. It's like, you know, guys sitting in Hooters eating onion rings, having a time with all his buddies. Hey, by the way, I think I'm going to change my lifestyle. I'm going to choose the one that people are going to criticize me for. I'm going to be discriminated against. I'm going to be hated in many areas all over the country. It's going to be very uncomfortable to my family. I'm going to give up the Hooters and the wings to go live that life. That's a choice? So come on, people don't choose that kind of thing. There is study after study that shows there is a generic way that your body responds. This is Bork's opinion. I don't really know. I've not gotten into it. And you know what? It doesn't affect me. I just want to lead my life and let people stay out of my life and I'll stay out of theirs. So I'm just not hung up on the issue like so many people seem to be.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about your daughter's career. You had a youngster in media. How's that happen?
That's right. Well, I've got 4 kids. I've got 4, all have been very successful in what they're doing, all in different professions. My oldest daughter you're referring to is Campbell. She has had an interesting career. Started off in television, worked her way up from local television, worked her way up into being the White House correspondent for NBC. Was there at the White House when 9/11 took place. I couldn't get through to her. I called her phone. I was worried to death because I saw that plane was heading right for the White House. And later she emailed me late that night saying that they had given the call, abandon the White House immediately. And she saw Cheney being rushed by, and he stumbled, and they just dragged him to get him into the bunker, to get him into a protective mode. But she said she had her shoes off, and she just grabbed her shoes and barefoot ran out of the White House as fast as she could. Then she didn't know where to go. She says, wait a minute, I'm a reporter, and this is the biggest story I'll ever cover. So I think the Willard Hotel, I believe, is right across the street from the White House. She went up in the hotel and grabbed her cameraman, did not leave the hotel room for 3 days. They brought her went to Walmart, got her some clothes and to change, and brought her food in while she reported on the event for NBC. But in any event, she then went to the Today Show on NBC, was a weekend anchor on the Today Show with Lester Holt. She really enjoyed that show. And then CNN offered her an anchor position to do a show from 7 to 8 on each night, and she's been doing that for the last several years. I think she just, she has 2 young boys, and I think she just misses being there at night to put them in bed and give them a kiss and put them in bed at night. And so now she's taken on a new career, and she's working on it now. I think she wants to maybe produce some shows and take off in a number of different venues. I think she has a lot of opportunities, and I wish her well and want her to be happy as you want all your kids to be happy. But obviously I'm very proud of her. She's made a heck of a career in her 41 years old, I think she is right now. So she's come a long, long way in this 41 years.
Towards the upcoming election, any trends that you see, statewide or national? Any opinions or thoughts about that?
Well, I think that the Democrats are in trouble, obviously, and Cheney to some degree, Bush and Cheney, that mode. The president to some degree was so buoyed by this big victory, and he did have a big election victory. I think that he saw it as a huge mandate for him, and I don't think it was. I think it was much a rejection of Bush. So they rejected Bush just like they're going to reject a lot of the Democrats in this election coming up now, just because it was a negative. It wasn't pro-Obama, it was anti-Bush and anti-Republican tactics in terms of the spending. Obama feels he has this huge mandate to do all these things, and so he jumps into health care as the economy is doing very, very poorly. Well, James Carville, who's a Louisiana guy who's we all seen on television and is a pretty practical thinker, made it very clear as to what the priorities were back in 1994 when he was handling the Clinton campaign. He said it very succinctly. It's the economy, stupid. And Obama failed to pick up on that and played all these cards on health care. While people were losing their jobs, they were concerned about health care, but they wanted to at least be able to pay the rent, and they couldn't pay the rent. So the GM debacle, we bail out GM, we bail out all these financial giants like AIG. Little guy out there does not get bailed out at all, and Obama's off talking health care and all these other issues tied down in Iraq. Their focus is the economy. And so as a consequence, I think the House is going to, House of Representatives is going to lose a lot of Democrats. Now, will the Republicans take over? It's hard to say. I see that just this week that Obama is starting to get the message and seems like he's focusing on the economy. But I'm not sure, once this huge flood starts, I'm not sure he'll be able to stop it. He could have initially. I think he could have 6 or 7 months ago. But he chose not to do so, and I think it's going to end up tactically being a huge mistake. Now you bring it back to Louisiana. We've got an election next year. Jindal has been fortunate in having some of the crises that he's had, having Katrina, having several storms, didn't amount to anything, but put him as the general in charge. And he's a good politician and has been able to build a solid statewide base by getting out and giving out the stimulus money that he was against. He was against it, but he was the guy that took the checks to everybody. And he's giving out the medals to the veterans, which is a good way. And I'm not criticizing for them. When I was in office, I went around and gave out awards and did that kind of thing too a good bit. So I understand that. I think people are frustrated, they're worried, and they're clinging to the hope that Jindal can maybe bring them out of this mess. The legislature so far has not shown much independence. I see the Speaker of the House in Louisiana, Jim Tucker, last week criticized both the governor and the Senate for not being more fiscally responsive on the budget. So there's not much independence in the legislature unless Tucker and a few others emerge in this next session. So the state's got some huge financial problems. Politically, though, we pretty much we've kind of accepted what we have. We don't have any incumbent congressman in trouble. David Vitter, our U.S. Senator, looks like he's way ahead right now. People just are okay with the status quo because they don't see an alternative out there that really makes sense to them. So I think things are not going to change much in Louisiana. You're going to see Jindal get reelected. Most of those in office stay in office. This Tea Party backlash has not hit on the state level. Is it right to do so? I think so. But up until now, these ladies and guys in the legislature and in public office in Louisiana have scathed this huge backlash that you see happening throughout the rest of the country.
You think that's in part because Louisiana is more conservative across the board?
Well, number one, we always bring up the back of the curve. We haven't had quite the economic problems, you take with Katrina. I mean, yes, a lot of people lost, but there was billions of dollars that came into the economy. If you were a contractor, if you were a house leveler, if you're a cleanup guy that got rid of the trees and the brush, you made a lot of money during Katrina. Gulf oil spill. There's been some studies coming out saying that as bad as it was, there have been very few people really lost their jobs. I've heard reports from some state officials, we're going to lose 100,000 jobs. We've lost very few jobs because of those same people going to work to do the cleanup. Now, when this stops, it may be a different story. Hopefully, we'll get back to work. But all that has played in to show that our unemployment and our economy is not as bad as other parts of the country. We're still getting a lot of sales tax coming into the state because all that oil equipment that's bought and sold, they all pay sales tax. And so when all this leaves, as it will by the first of the year, what is the state situation going to be like then? And then you may see much more of a backlash next year, which is election year. But right now, we haven't caught that backlash like the rest of the country has caught.